distinct pleasure of the chair to introduce our essayist for the convention, Dr. Dale Meyer, president of Concordia Seminary, St. Louis, Missouri. He has been president there since 2007. This is the second time in the last 6 months that the chair has had the honor and privilege to introduce our essayist, who earlier this year was awarded the Veterans of the Cross Benken Medallion for his service to the church at large. The chair first met Dr. Dale Meyer as a student at Concordia Seminary, St. Louis. At the time, he was serving as a professor of homiletics in New Testament and directing the resident field education. His voice was instantly recognizable. Dr. Meyer came through the Concordia system, graduating from the Senior College in Fort Wayne in 1969, then from Concordia Seminary, St. Louis in 1973. He went on to get a master's degree from Washington University in 1974 and began his teaching career at the seminary as a guest instructor in 1979. He went on to earn his doctorate in 1986 in classical languages, also from Washington University, as well as receiving an honorary doctorate from Concordia Theological Seminary in Fort Wayne, Indiana in 1993. He served as a Greg H. Bennett Memorial Chair in Homiletics and Literature at Concordia Seminary from 2001 to 2005, and in 2004 was named interim president of the seminary, and then named as the 10th president of Concordia Seminary in 2005. Dr. Meyer has served with distinction on countless boards and committees at the church at large, including the Association of Lutheran Older Adults, International Lutheran Laymen's League, and the Standing Committee on Pastoral Ministry for the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. He has served as Lutheran Hour speaker, host on the television show On Main Street, as a Synod vice president, and has a number of published works. He's taken part of for a number of years, in the fight against childhood cancer by shaving his head for the St. Baldrick Foundation. That's my patron saint, leading the way for many students who also shave their heads. That takes a lot of commitment. He has served as the president of Concordia Seminary, St. Louis, for the past 13 years, helping to shape pastors to serve God's people in mission and ministry. Dr. Meyer lives in St. Louis with his wife, Diane. They have 2 grown children, Elizabeth and Catherine, in addition to 2 son-in-laws. But most importantly, they have 5 grandsons, Christian, Connor, and Nicholas Pittman, and Andrew and Jacob Bailey, sometimes known as the Cinco de Mayo. Why? Man, I practiced that too, and never mind. The chair is just glad to have you here. Please welcome Dr. Dale Meyer.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Greg. Thank you very, very much. Congratulations, David, on that wonderful award. Congratulations, President Walton, on being reelected. I know we look forward to working with you, and I say we, I include President Rast of Fort Wayne. We're always glad when you come on campus. And Dr. Meyer, that was a great Bible study. It's a great Bible study, but I gotta tell you, here's what the deal is. You know, we're all brothers and sisters, and when the Meyers were first learning the alphabet, our branch learned the whole thing, and we could go all the way down to Y, M-E-Y, M-A-I. I mean, how shallow. This is not the first time we've teased about it. Can you hear me in the back? You can? I said that once at a Lutheran Hour rally, and an old guy said, if I wanted to hear you, I would have sat in the front. All right, chosen with purpose, abiding in Jesus. Chosen is a passive. It's done to you. It's It's not active. Now, the Christian life has a lot of activity in it, but it all starts with this passive fact that you have been chosen by Jesus. Those of you who have graduated in recent years from the seminary know that I have a line. I have a number of lines, but one of them is, it's a great time to be getting into the ministry. And I want you to come away from this convention, including my presentations, to know it is a great time to be the church. Some months ago, I preached in Asheville, North Carolina. And that's what I talked about. It's a great time to be the church. This congregation was a relatively healthy congregation, but you could see that they were having struggles. One of the things that I've learned, and I think maybe you've learned it too, is that you can walk into a congregation and you can sniff pretty quickly how things are going. So I said, it's a great time to be the church. And then during the Bible class, an elderly woman said, how can you say that? How can you say it's a great time to be the church? You know what the answer is? You're not, in the first and most pressing sense, the Florida-Georgia district. In the first and most immediate sense, this is not about the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. It's not about Concordia Seminary or Concordia Theological Seminary. In the first and most commanding sense, this is the church of the Lord Jesus Christ. And was there a card up there that said applause, please? I don't get all this technological stuff. If we believe that, how dare we go around with furrowed brows, wringing our hands, and saying this is a tough time to be the church? There are challenges, I have no doubt about that, and we're going to get into some of them tonight. But this time that you and I are living, with all the challenges that we are meeting individually and in congregational life, oh, what a blessing. Because it is teaching us to know again, or maybe for the first time, that we are following the Lord Jesus Christ. He has chosen you, He has chosen me, and He has chosen us because of a love that the world does not know but needs to know. We say chosen, passive. But today America says, I'll choose. You watch the news, watch conversations, and it's always I. Western culture is individualistic, okay? American culture today is individualism on steroids. Identity politics. Custom designed babies. Genders. If you Google, don't do it now. The last time I did this, there are over 58 identified genders. I thought there were just 2. That reminds me, I'm the son of a milkman. It's okay, he married my mom. He married my mother. But when I say that on campus, our average entering age at the seminary is 26 years old. They don't get the joke. They don't get it. America today is individualism on steroids. You and I are gathered around an un-American theme. We are chosen. America says, I'll choose. Now, all the things that are going on in our culture today, which distress us, let me zero in on 2 of the many things that are different in this day and age than they were when most of us grew up. The Barna organization surveys what Americans believe and how they live out their faith. And in a book called Barna Trends 2017, they identified 5 popular beliefs about what Americans believe today. Number 1, the vast majority of Americans believe Jesus was a real person. Whoa! Number 2, younger generations are increasingly less likely to believe Jesus was God. Barna asked the question, was Jesus God? And I hope you understand what's wrong with that. It should be present tense, is. Just like in a Lutheran Hour sermon years ago, I talked about Jesus Day, and an old pastor from Michigan wrote to me, and he was very kindly, he said, this is still Jesus Day, you know? This is still Jesus Day. But anyway, Barna says, younger generations are increasingly less likely to believe that Jesus was God. Americans are divided on whether Jesus was sinless. Most Americans say they have made a commitment to Jesus Christ. Now you tell me, what does that mean? I've made a commitment to Jesus Christ if you believe that he has sins and is not divine. But that's where American beliefs about Jesus are at. Most Americans say they have made a commitment to Jesus Christ. Number 5, people are conflicted between Jesus and good deeds as the way to heaven. Martin Luther would turn over in his grave. Jesus is not turning over in his grave because he ain't in it anymore, okay? So David Kinnaman, who is the president of the Barna organization, summarizes it this way: America's dedication to Jesus is, in most cases, a mile wide and an inch deep. And I bet you some of these opinions are in your congregation. Those sanctuary walls don't keep out the media from influencing how your fellow parishioners think. Another change that we have experienced in our lifetime, much to our distress, is a morality of self-fulfillment. Remember, America is individualism on steroids. So Barna put a number of statements to Americans and said, do you agree with this or disagree with this? The best way to find yourself is by looking within yourself. I underline that because we're going to pick it up in the second part of my essay. 91% of U.S. adults agree. 76% of practicing Christians agree. The best place to find yourself is within yourself. That's idolatry. People should not criticize someone else's life choices. 89% of Americans agree, 76% of churchgoers. To be fulfilled in life, you should pursue the things you desire most. 86% and 72%. The highest goal of life is to enjoy it as much as possible. 84% of Americans and 67% of churchgoers. While we wring our hands, and all, the Missouri Synod is good about that. I do too. While we wring our hands, this is a quotation from Kinnaman and Gabe Lyons, wring our hands about secularism spreading through culture, a majority of church-going Christians have embraced corrupt, me-centered theology. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. And if your antennae are up for it, you can see it day in, day out in our culture. Now, what has accelerated this is digital technology. The guys down in our IT department were really impressed when I went and told them I just bought a new tablet. I said, it's not a brand that you guys would know, but it's very user-friendly, and I need user-friendly devices. And they said, what is it? I said, it's an Etch-a-Sketch. I mean, it's user-friendly. The problem is if you hit the brakes, it slides off the seat and you lose all your data. All right, accelerations have changed. The 21st century will be equivalent to 20,000 years of progress at today's rate of progress. Get that. This century we're in, equivalent to 20,000 years of progress at today's rate of progress. And then Thomas Friedman of the New York Times wrote a book, Thank You for Being Late, and talks about the accelerations that are going on. And most of these accelerations have been happening since 2007. It's only 10, 11 years. It hasn't been going on and on and on. It's in the last decade that this stuff is really steamrolling, and it's going to keep going. Friedman says the rate of technological change is now accelerating so fast that it has risen above the average rate at which most people can absorb all these changes. Most of us can't keep pace anymore. Can you? And you're not going to be able to. There will be no new normal. The new normal is going to be continual abnormal. And there's a quotation from a guy named Eric Teller, and this is causing us cultural angst. This is a great book from Concordia Publishing House, Digitized, by Bernard Bull of Concordia University in Wisconsin. And I'd recommend it for Bible class, for preaching preparation, and so on. Got to keep going, got to keep going. Remember, Teller said cultural angst. Legacy businesses are flailing. My real home is in Collinsville, Illinois. Sears just closed its store there. The government is dysfunctional. Nothing more needs to be said. Institutional church is in decline, and the LCMS is on the toboggan slide. Also, I say institutional church. Notice that adjective. Church of Jesus Christ. He knows what's going on. He's alive, and he's the one who has chosen us. This is a great quotation from Peggy Noonan. Everyone's in the dark looking for the switch. Don't you love it? I am now at an age when I sometimes have to get up in the dark, look for the switch. You know? This is terrible. The first thing Diane and I say when we get up in the morning, how'd you sleep last night? Well, how'd you sleep last night? This is sad. This is sad. Everyone's in the dark looking for the switch. When you're in the middle of history, the meaning of things is usually unclear. In real time, most things are obscure. And Peggy Noonan wrote this in the February Wall Street Journal after she had reread a book by Dean Acheson. Acheson was the Secretary of State under President Harry Truman, and he wrote this book about how the world changed after World War II. And she quotes this from Acheson: "Only slowly did it dawn upon us that the whole world structure and order that we had inherited from the 19th century was gone. You and I are living in the biggest time of change since the Reformation, maybe the Industrial Revolution. And we can't comprehend it, and we don't know where it's going to go. All we know is the one who has chosen us, whom we are following." Nostalgic. I won't read this because of the time, but how many people aren't nostalgic for the 1950s? In the country and in the church. I get it all the time. You know, we used to have, the church where I was pastor had almost 1,000 people every Sunday in church. People say, well, it's not that way, and they yearn for the past. Well, that was a special time in the church and in the country. But it's gone. It's not coming back. And the Lord Jesus knows this. The Lord Jesus understands this. And the Lord Jesus has chosen you, plural, to be here for this time. Okay, I want to make a turn here, Mr. Chair, then I'll wrap it up. Oh, I could go on all night, but I understand there's Lutheran lemonade happening later on. I had a long day. I got up at 4 o'clock this morning in Denver, and it was just a physically hard day, and I got here during the church service, so I missed the sermon, Pastor, and I saw somebody outside, and I said, man, this has been tough. They said, have a drink. If I had a drink, I wouldn't be functioning. So later, I want to make a turn. In homiletics, they call this now making a move. I'm going to make a move on you, okay? So There are all these reasons to furrow our brows and wring our hands. And you might be able to see it. You might be able to see it in your congregation. The statistics are not encouraging. But we want to make a turn. These cultural changes are a blessing in disguise. What's going on in our lifetime, these things that distress us in American culture or in the life of the church, are teaching us to know again, or to know for the very first time, that we are following Jesus Christ. Period. That's the great thing about this time in which you and I are living. Go back 50, 70 years. It was Christian America. 50, 70 years ago, everyone knew that they should go to church on Sunday morning. Now, whether they went or not, it's another issue. 50, 70 years ago, everybody knew the main characters of the Bible. It was a biblically literate society. Whether they read the Bible or not, that's another issue. 50, 70 years ago, people knew what the church taught basically about the Lord Jesus Christ. Whether they believed it or not, that's another issue. 50, 70 years ago, American was a Judeo-Christian morality. You could see it on county squares, courthouse squares. You could see it in buildings. It was Christian America. I went to Little St. Paul's Lutheran School, 180 kids in Chicago Heights, Illinois. And then I went to Big Bloom Township High School, over 3,000 kids. And you know what? That big public high school was very complimentary to what we learned in a little Lutheran school. It was Christian America. It's all gone. When we grew up, the things of God and the things of man were homogenized. They're kind of mixed up, like milk. It was homogenized. And I'm not complaining. I'm not saying it was bad. It was a great time to grow up. Great time to be church. But you didn't see as clearly then as we do in this changed culture that we are chosen to follow Jesus Christ, whatever happens in the world. Christian America is gone. It is not going to come back. But what you and I need to do is to understand again that our commitment, even more than the church, even more to this country which we are concerned about, is to the Lord Jesus Christ. Psalm 73, whom have I in heaven but thee, and there is no one upon earth that I desire beside thee. My heart and my flesh may fail, but God is the strength of my countenance and my portion forever. It is a great time to be the church. In my next installment, I'm going to talk about the theology that underlies this. But Jesus is alive, and he has you and me here for this time in his mission to the world. Thank you.